Hi, I'm Sarah. Today I'm going to read you the story of Clara titled, Still Walking Home? My brother mocked me at dinner. I stayed silent. Until they saw my Mercedes parked outside, Dad stuttered. I smiled. Oh, you haven't seen my penthouse yet. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Well, let's begin. I'm Clara. I'm 31 now, but this story starts way back when I realized I was the unnecessary child. I was born the last of four kids, and by the time I showed up, my parents were already exhausted with parenting. My siblings, Daniel, Victor, and Anna, got the spotlight, the money, the encouragement. Daniel got into football, huge banners in the yard. Victor needed a new laptop, done same-day delivery. Anna wanted piano lessons. My parents practically begged her teacher to give her more hours. Me, I got leftovers. Always. Daniel's old sneakers, Anna's cracked phone, Victor's used textbooks with doodles all over the margins. At first I thought that's just how things were, but as I grew I saw the difference. I still remember winning a statewide science competition at 15. My parents barely looked up from their phones. That's nice, Mom muttered. Then without pause she turned to Anna, honey, practice your recital piece. Grandma wants to hear it. That was my childhood, my achievements quietly erased. By 16, I figured it out. If I wanted anything, I'd have to get it myself. I picked up shifts at a bakery, minimum wage flour in my hair every night, but it was mine. The first thing I bought, a working phone. Not glamorous, just one that didn't shut off every 20 minutes like Anna's hand-me-down. And here's the irony. My parents loved bragging about how independent I was. To their friends, Clara's so responsible. We don't have to worry about her. Translation. Good. That's one less mouth we have to spend on. When college applications came, I already knew the script. Daniel's tuition paid, Victor's tuition paid, Anna too. But me, Dad sat me down, serious face. Clara, you know we've already put 3 kids through college. We just can't afford a 4th. I nodded like I was fine, but inside I was crushed. I had seen it coming, but hearing it out loud, it felt like being erased from the family ledger. Mom added, "You're clever, honey. You'll figure something out." Yeah, thanks, Mom. So I worked harder. I threw myself into scholarships contests, volunteering, tutoring, anything that would put me on paper as scholarship worthy. I got a 75% ride to a state university. That still left 25% plus rent, books, food. The math didn't work. That's when I made the one phone call that changed my life, Aunt May. She wasn't like my parents. She'd never married, never had kids, but had a successful career in real estate. I explained everything, my grades, my scholarship, my parents' refusal. I even offered to repay her with interest. Silence. Then she said, Clara, I've watched them overlook you for years. You don't need to convince me. I'll help. No repayment needed. Just focus on becoming who I know you can be. I cried so hard I could barely thank her. The same night I walked downstairs to share my relief with my parents. And there it was, Victor standing in the driveway, posing next to a shiny new car. My parents beaming like it was Christmas. Congratulations, son, you earned a... I looked at the brand new Toyota with its ribbon, then at them, then at myself. I just secured funding for college, I said quietly. Nobody turned. Feeling bold, I tried Victor, since you've got a new car. Can I use your old one for commuting? He snorted. I'm selling it, obviously. Why would I just give it away? I stared. Because I tutored you in math for 2 years. He laughed. Take the bus, Clara. It's good for you. My parents nodded. Public transport builds character, Mom said. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. They'd just spent 20 grand on Victor's car, but me taking the bus was character building. That was the moment I let go. I would stop expecting anything from them. University life became a grind. 2 buses every day, 1.5 hours each way. Work-study jobs to cover books. Weekends spent in the campus library instead of partying. My manager at a campus cafe, Mr. Lopez, noticed my determination. You've got the hunger, Clara, he'd say. You'll go far. And I clung to that. Because at home, things were worse. Daniel married young parents, funded his wedding. Anna moved into an apartment, parents furnished it. Victor wanted to explore Europe, parents paid his trip. Me, I wasn't even invited to half the family dinners. I'd come home and see photos online, my parents laughing with my siblings at Sunday lunch. Me, Chinese takeout, eaten alone, books piled on the table. Graduation came. I walked the stage with highest honors. My parents clapped politely like I was some acquaintance's kid. No cheers, no flowers. 2 weeks later, Dad sat me down. Clara, you're 22 now, time to move out. I blinked, but Daniel lived here till 25, Anna till 24. You're different, Mom said, smiling. You're more mature, more self-sufficient. Translation, we never cared to begin with. So I packed up, rented a tiny studio with my savings. No help with moving, no calls after. I was gone and they didn't even ask for my new address. And that was the last time I thought I could ever belong in that family. But here's the twist. I built myself anyway. I climbed the corporate ladder in finance, got promoted again and again, traveled the world, and bought myself a car that made Victor's old Toyota look like a toy. And years later, when the call came when they needed me to show up to represent the family, I knew exactly how I'd play it. This is where the story really begins. 3 years passed after I moved out, and not once did my parents call me. No holiday greetings, no birthdays, nothing. Daniel, Victor, and Anna posted smiling family photos online every Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I wasn't in a single one of them. At first, I told myself I didn't care. I buried myself in work. I landed a position at a top investment firm and worked my way up. Long nights, endless coffee, a mountain of client files, but it paid off. Promotions came, and with them, money, real money. By 28, I had my own apartment in the city and a Mercedes parked downstairs. By 30, I had investments that made my bank account look like something out of a dream. I bought myself things my siblings would never imagine me owning. But more than that, I bought freedom. I was no longer the girl who begged for an old car. One Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. The number flashed home. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen that caller ID in years. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Clara, Mom's voice said falsely bright, "Your great uncle Harold is visiting this weekend. He wants the whole family together. Saturday, 6 o'clock. Be there." I almost laughed. Great Uncle Harold, the man who used to send me $5 bills and birthday cards. He lived across the country. I hadn't seen him since I was 12. I don't think I began. "This isn't optional," Clara, Mom cut in. "He specifically asked to see everyone." "Don't embarrass us." Click. "No, please, no, we miss you. Just orders." I set my phone down and stared at it. Part of me wanted to ignore them. Why should I dance for an uncle who barely remembered me? But then another part of me stirred. A darker, sharper part. Maybe it was time. Time to let them see exactly who I'd become. Saturday came. I spent half the day preparing, not because I wanted to impress them, but because I wanted the reveal to be surgical. My clothes. A navy silk dress, plain at first glance, but worth more than my siblings' wardrobes combined. Jewelry, understated but genuine gold. To the untrained eye, I'd look modest. To anyone who knew, I'd look untouchable. I parked my Mercedes a block away behind a strip mall. If I drove it straight into the driveway, the moment would be lost. Timing mattered. I wanted them to assume I was still the girl they dismissed, the girl who walked, who took buses, who begged for scraps. When I rang the doorbell, Dad opened the door. For a split second, his face betrayed shock. Then plastered smile. "Clara, you made it." I stepped inside. The house smelled the same, lemon cleaner and roasted meat. But I felt like a stranger in a museum of my own childhood. The living room was crowded. Daniel with his wife Victor, with his girlfriend Anna, with her fiancé. And at the center, like a king on a throne, Uncle Harold, white hair cane by his chair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Look who's here," Mom announced, her voice almost too loud. Clara decided to join us. The words stung, decided to join us, like I was an outsider crashing their club. Dinner began, and immediately my parents fell into their old rhythm, bragging. "Daniel's been promoted to senior project manager," Dad boomed. "Victor's applying for his MBA," Mom added proudly. Anna's art was shown at a local gallery, Dad said, practically glowing. I chewed my food silently. My siblings smirked at me across the table. Anna tilted her head, her voice honey-sweet. "Clara, love your dress. So simple." Minimalist, I guess that's trendy now. Translation, "It looks cheap." I smiled, "Thank you." Then Victor leaned in. "Hey, did you walk here, or did you finally get a bike?" He chuckled. Daniel joined in. Even Mom grinned. Public transport builds character, remember? The table erupted with laughter. Mine wasn't the joke anymore. It was me. Inside, I stayed calm, because I knew what was coming. Uncle Harold cleared his throat. The table quieted. His eyes, sharp despite his age, settled on me. "I've heard about everyone else," he said. "But not you, Clara. What do you do these days?" Silence. I could feel every eye shift toward me, waiting. I placed my fork down gently. "I work in investment management. I handle client portfolios at Myers & Cole." Uncle Harold raised his brows. "Myers & Cole. That's a serious firm." Dad's face froze. Mom's hand twitched. Daniel blinked. Victor frowned like he couldn't place the name. "Yes," I said evenly. "I'm a senior manager now. I oversee accounts worth more than most houses on this street." Uncle Harold chuckled, clearly impressed. "Well done, girl. That's no small feat." But around the table, the air had shifted. My siblings no longer smirked. My parents' laughter had died, and I savored the silence. After dinner, I excused myself. "Thank you, Uncle Harold. Lovely seeing you all. But I have an early morning." Mom practically leapt up. "We'll walk you out." Of course she would. They all wanted to see me leave. They expected me to head down the street, back to the bus stop, still the invisible daughter. Instead, I turned the corner, walked up to my Mercedes, and clicked the key fob. Beep! The headlights lit up the night. The group stopped dead. Victor's mouth fell open. Daniel swore under his breath. Anna went pale. Dad managed to croak that car? It's worth at least $80,000. I smiled, rolling down the window. Oh, this, just a small upgrade. You should see my penthouse. Their faces, frozen speechless, pale in the glow of my car's lights, were worth every lonely bus ride, every ignored holiday, every slight. I rolled up the window and pulled away slowly, deliberately, watching their stunned faces shrink in my rearview mirror. That was the night the balance shifted. But what came next, their desperate attempts to pull me back in, was even better. The next morning, I woke up in my city apartment to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. 10 missed calls, then 15, then 23. All from the same people who hadn't bothered to check if I was alive for years. I poured myself coffee, leaned against the balcony railing, and scrolled through the messages. Mom, Clara, honey, we should get together soon. We miss you so much. Anna. Hey, sis, let's go shopping sometime. I'd love to see your place. Daniel, Clara. Great seeing you last night. Maybe lunch. We could catch up, just the two of us. Victor. Wow, didn't know you were doing so well. We should hang out. Maybe you can give me career advice. Even Dad. We're proud of you. Let's have dinner again soon. Just family. I almost laughed into my coffee. Just family. The same family that forgot to invite me to Christmas dinner 3 years in a row. The same family that told me the bus builds character while they handed my siblings cars and apartments. Now I was suddenly worth calling. For weeks the flood didn't stop. Calls, texts, even voicemails. My mother's voice grew softer, with each one rehearsed sweetness dripping through the phone. Clara, darling, I always knew you were special. I just want you to know we're so proud. I never answered. Instead, I went for runs in the park, brunches with friends, late dinners with colleagues. Every ping of my phone reminded me I finally had the upper hand. But it didn't take long for the truth to surface. One evening after leaving work, I spotted them. My parents, standing next to my car in the parking garage like two ghosts. Clara, Mom called when she saw me. We've been waiting. I sighed. Fine, there's a coffee shop across the street. We'll talk there. We sat in a corner booth, them with their plain black coffees, me with a latte. I crossed my arms and waited. Mom started. We want you to know how proud we are of you. You've always been so independent, so driven. Dad nodded. We knew you'd succeed. It was just a matter of time. I nearly choked on my drink. If they had truly believed that they wouldn't have treated me like dead weight, then Mom's voice shifted softer. We made mistakes when you were younger. We realize that now. But we want to make it right. We want you back in the family. And then the real reason. Daniel's getting ready to propose to Emma, Dad said. They want a big wedding, Mom added quickly. And Anna, she and her fiancé are talking about their own ceremony. Weddings are expensive, Clara. Very expensive. There it was, the catch. Dad leaned forward. Since you're doing so well, maybe you could help with the costs. It would show you're committed to being part of this family again. I sat there in silence, staring at them. Finally, I laughed. Out loud. The kind of laugh that made nearby tables turn and glance at us. Let me get this straight, I said. You want me to pay for Daniel and Anna's wedding so I can earn my way back into a family that never wanted me? Mom flushed. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I cut in. I set down my empty cup and stood. You ignored me for years. You left me out of every holiday. You made me feel invisible. And now because you want money, suddenly I'm worth your time. No, I don't buy it. I don't. Mom's eyes went glassy. We can fix this, Clara. We can start over. I shook my head. No, you can't. I don't need a family that only remembers me when they see dollar signs. And I walked out, leaving them in that little booth staring after me. The weeks after that were even almost amusing. Anna sent me photos of wedding dresses with captions like, "What do you think Sis Daniel dropped hints about honeymoon costs?" Victor, not engaged to anyone, suddenly wanted to discuss investment opportunities with me. And then my parents, they kept sending guilt-soaked texts. Family should stick together. Don't let money come between us. Money wasn't the problem. It was never the problem. It was the way they treated me like a spare piece of furniture they didn't need until suddenly it became valuable. But here's the thing. The more they pushed, the freer I felt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing after their love. I wasn't begging for a seat at their table. Now they were the ones knocking. And I didn't even have to open the door. Still, a part of me wondered, would they stop at texts and calls, or would their desperation go further? I didn't know then just how far they were willing to push. But I was about to find out. 2 weeks after the coffee shop scene, I finally relaxed. Fewer calls, fewer guilt texts. I thought the storm had passed. Then my phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m. Credit alert, new application detected at First Harbor Bank. I sat up in bed, heart thudding. I hadn't applied for anything. I opened the notice. It listed my full name, my address, a joint line of credit. Primary applicant Daniel S., my brother. I called the bank before I could talk myself out of it. A woman answered. Calm professional. First Harbor Fraud Desk, this is Jamie. My name's Clara Sandoval, I said. I received an alert for a joint application. I didn't apply. She asked for the reference number. I read it back, hands shaking. Silence. Then she said, the file shows a co-signer authorization from you. Electronic signature. Today's date. I didn't sign anything. Another pause. Keys clacked. Ms. Sandoval, do you want me to email the documents on file? Yes, please, now. 2 minutes later, my inbox pinged. I opened the PDF in the kitchen, standing in front of my coffee machine like it might hold me up. There it was. My name typed in the signature field. A blob of pixels trying to pass as my signature. A scanned copy of my old campus pay stub attached. A grainy photo of my driver's license from years ago. Where did they get that? Memory snapped hard. 17. Dad needed my social security number for taxes. He'd taken a photo of my card. I'll keep it safe, he'd said. I remembered the click of his old phone camera. I remembered believing him. I called the bank back. That signature is fake. Jamie's voice softened. I'll flag the application, freeze it, and start a fraud investigation. You'll receive a form to complete. Do you want to place a password on your profile? Yes, I said. Make it iron. When I hung up, the quiet in my apartment felt loud. I texted one person. Me, Aunt May, are you awake? She called instantly. What happened? I told her every line, every horrifying detail. She sighed long and exhausted. They asked me last week, she said. Your mother called and said I should talk sense into you. She said Daniel was counting on family and that you'd sign if you loved them. I told her no. My throat closed. Of course they called you. There's more, Aunt May said. Clara, there was a small fund in your name. From when you were a child. Your grandparents started it. It was meant for you. I found out years later that your parents moved it. Moved it where? To cover Daniel's wedding deposit and Victor's study abroad trip. She paused. Your father told me to keep quiet. He said you were resourceful and didn't need it. I sat down. The chair felt cold. Do you have proof? I have the email, the transfer note. I'll forward them. My phone vibrated again. Subject line re-UTMA transfer. For Clara's education. The thread was 7 years old. Dad to Aunt May. We're reallocating Clara's account to immediate family needs. She'll manage without it. Please keep this between us. A second message attached a photo of a ledger page. Transfer Clara S. UTMA. Household discretionary. Amount circled in red. The room tilted. I pressed my palm flat to the table until the spin stopped. Clara, Aunt May said softly. There's something else. Your birth certificate and social security card. Do you still keep them at your parents' house? Yes, I whispered. In the family safe. Get them, she said. Today, before anything else happens. I looked at the clock. 7:03 a.m. I grabbed my keys. The drive to the old neighborhood felt surreal. My hands remembered the route, even if my heart didn't. The maple tree on the corner, the cracked curb near the mailbox, the same lemon cleaner smell when I slipped through the side door with my old key. The house was quiet. Saturday morning stillness, a faint tick from the hallway clock, sunlight on the tile like spilled milk. I didn't come to talk, I came to retrieve what was mine. The safe was in Dad's office behind a framed diploma that impressed visitors. The frame lifted with a sigh. The keypad beeped. He'd used the same code for 20 years. Birthdays, is he? The door swung open, paper smell, metal cool against my fingers. My birth certificate, my social security card. I slid both into a folder, then into my tote. I took the passport too. If they had copies, I wanted originals. I would have left then. But a red folder lay on the desk. Open, careless. The top sheet said household accounts in Dad's tidy capital letters. I didn't plan to look. I looked, line after line. Transfers, notes, a column labeled family allocation, names, dates, amounts, and then there it was again. Transfer from Clara S. Utma, $1,400 to $500, Daniel wedding deposit. Transfer from Clara S. Utma, $6,000, Victor Europe program. My fingers went numb. The pen beside the folder was heavy and smooth. A gift pen. The kind people give when they think you've done something important. Something clicked inside me, not anger, not yet. Something colder, a cataloging of facts, a line drawn with a ruler. Footsteps thudded on the porch. I slid the red folder back into place. I lifted my tote higher on my shoulder. I turned toward the hall. The front door opened. Voices spilled in, my mother's laugh, my father's cough, the scrape of a shoe against the entry rug. Clara Mom's voice, bright, staged. What a surprise. We stared at each other in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes flicked to my bag. Dad's gaze darted to his office. His smile faltered. What are you doing here, he asked. I came for my documents, I said, and I found your ledger. Mom stiffened. That's private. So are my accounts, I replied. Dad lifted his chin. We provided for this family. We made decisions for the good of all. That money wasn't doing anything. It was mine, I said. Each word a stone. Grandma gave it to me. He scoffed. You're successful now. You don't need it. There it was, the family gospel. If I didn't need it, it wasn't mine. If they wanted it, it was theirs. I set my toad on the counter. Quietly. Deliberately. The bank called me this morning, I said, about a joint line of credit. With Daniel, with my forged signature. Mom gasped, That's ridiculous! I have the file, I said. I have the alert, the attachments, and the fraud case number. I also have Aunt May's emails from 7 years ago. Do you want to guess what they say? Dad's jaw clenched. Don't threaten us, Clara. I'm not threatening you, I said. I'm telling you what I know. Silence stretched. The clock counted. Somewhere a neighbor's dog barked. Footsteps sounded on the porch again. The door swung wider. Daniel walked in, followed by Anna, then Victor. All three froze when they saw me. For a moment, we were kids again in a kitchen with lemon cleaner and sunlight. Then the moment snapped. Daniel's eyes went straight to the office. Dad, we still going to the bank? No one answered him. Anna tried to smile. Clara, you should have called. We could have done brunch. Victor stayed near the door, hands in pockets, watching. I looked at each of them, slowly, carefully. Did you know I asked? About the UTMA transfers, about the application this morning. Daniel swallowed. We're family. We help each other. Help, I said. Is that what you call forging my name? He flinched. Just a little. Enough. Mom touched my arm. We were going to tell you. When I asked, after the bank approved it, her hand dropped. You always make everything so dramatic. I almost laughed. There it was again, the old label, too much, too serious, too dramatic. I picked up my tote. This is what's going to happen, I said, voice low and clear. I'm leaving with my documents. I'm filing the fraud paperwork today. I'm placing locks on all my accounts and credit. If any of you use my name, my numbers, my identity for anything, I will involve the police. There won't be warnings. There won't be second chances. Dad pointed at the office. Put the folder back. It's already back, I said, and I took photos. His face darkened. You wouldn't dare. I would, I said, and I did. Daniel stepped forward. Clara, come on. We're just trying to get the wedding sorted and the mortgage and I'm not your bank, I said. Anna's voice went small. We're supposed to stick together. Then you should have stuck with me when I asked for a ride to campus, I said. And it surprised me how steady it came out. No shake, no heat, just truth. The room held its breath. I turned to go. Clara, Mom said, a tremor under the sugar. If you walk out now, you'll tear this family apart. No, I said, hand on the doorknob. I'm refusing to let you tear me apart. I opened the door. Gravel crunched under my heels. The sky was a clear, careless blue. Somewhere a wind chime laughed. Behind me, the house buzzed with muffled voices, urgent, angry, afraid. My phone vibrated. A message from Jamie at the bank case opened. Application frozen. Please confirm police report number when filed. Another text arrived on top of it. Unknown number. A screenshot of a group chat named Family Plan. Lines and lines of messages. My name. The bank. Use her signature. She won't check. A final text. You don't know me. I'm Nina. I'm Victor's girlfriend. You should see this. They didn't think I'd tell you. I stopped on the sidewalk. The wind lifted the hem of my dress. I stared at the screen. The words were bright and ugly. The evidence I needed had just walked into my hand. I took a breath, cold, clean, final. It was time to stop reacting. It was time to act. I thought the storm had already peaked when I exposed the bank transfers and the falsified signatures, but I was wrong. That was just the prelude. The real unraveling began the moment my brother realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. For years, he had relied on the same cycle, cause chaos, shift blame, lean on our parents' guilt-ridden protection, then watch me clean up the mess. But now I was holding proof, not excuses. And with every document I stacked on the kitchen counter that night, his voice grew thinner, less confident, until even my mother's tired attempts to defend him sounded hollow. It was the first time in my life I saw the golden child lose control. The next morning, the fallout spread fast. My father tried calling me before dawn, his voice stiff with the authority he still thought he held over me. He barked that I was tearing this family apart, that airing dirty laundry could ruin their reputation at church and in the neighborhood. I let him finish, then calmly told him I'd already scheduled a meeting with a financial investigator. Silence stretched across the line. He'd never heard me talk like that before, not as the apologetic daughter who tried to fix everything, but as someone who finally understood her power. When I hung up, I felt my hands shake, not from fear, but from release. The burden I'd carried for years wasn't mine anymore. Of course, my brother didn't surrender quietly. Within hours, he began the predictable smear campaign. He told relatives I was mentally unstable, that I fabricated the documents because I was jealous of him. He even tried to claim I'd stolen his identity and set up the fraudulent accounts myself. But this time, every desperate accusation worked against him. Because for once, I didn't just defend myself, I showed evidence. bank records with login times that matched his phone's IP address, handwriting experts confirming the forgeries weren't mine, and text messages where he slipped up bragging to a friend about how easy it was to use family when money ran short. Piece by piece, the truth painted itself undeniable and permanent. What shocked me most wasn't his lies, I'd grown used to those, but how quickly some family members distanced themselves from him once they realized his charm couldn't cover the cracks anymore. Aunts who once scolded me for being cold started calling to say they always had concerns. Cousins sent quiet texts. "We see what you've been through. Stay strong." It was surreal. For years I had been the scapegoat. Now, without me begging, the narrative was shifting. But it wasn't just about exposing him. I had to protect myself too. That week, I froze all shared accounts, pulled my credit reports, and filed fraud alerts with every bureau. My brother had stolen so much, not only money, but peace of mind, and I wasn't about to give him another chance. Sitting in the lawyer's office, listening to the calm explanation of next steps, I felt something I hadn't in years: safety. The attorney explained that with the documentation I'd gathered, criminal charges were not just possible, but likely. For the first time, consequences weren't an abstract hope. They were real, and they were coming. Meanwhile, my brother unraveled. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door, shouting threats one moment and begging the next. But I didn't open it. I'd already spoken with the police, filed a report, and installed security cameras. When he realized his theatrics wouldn't work anymore, he tried turning our parents against me harder. My mother called sobbing, accusing me of being heartless for involving the law. I reminded her of every loan I'd covered, every holiday I'd sacrificed, every night I'd stayed awake worrying about his next disaster. My voice didn't crack this time. I simply said, "This isn't about family anymore. This is about survival." And then I ended the call. There was one moment, though, that nearly broke me. My niece, innocent, caught in the middle, called me after overhearing her father arguing. Her small voice trembled as she asked, "Are you really trying to put Daddy in jail?" I swallowed hard, forcing my tone gentle. I told her the truth she deserved. "I'm not putting anyone anywhere. I'm just making sure everyone plays by the same rules." That conversation haunted me because she didn't choose any of this. She was collateral damage just like I had been growing up. But it had also hardened my resolve. If I let the cycle continue, she would inherit the same warped lessons about loyalty, love, and sacrifice. I refused to let that happen. The final blow came faster than even I expected. My lawyer filed a formal complaint, and within weeks, investigators traced the fraudulent accounts directly to my brother. His panic was obvious: sudden calls begging me to drop it, pathetic promises that he'd change. But every plea came too late. By then, I had stopped needing apologies. I didn't want words, I wanted peace. And peace only comes when truth replaces silence. Looking back, the strangest part isn't the evidence or the confrontation. It's how ordinary the world looked as everything shifted. I remember leaving the courthouse after submitting my statement, noticing how the sky was perfectly clear, how children still laughed at the park across the street, how traffic buzzed like nothing had changed. Yet inside me, everything was different. I wasn't the scapegoat anymore. I wasn't the fixer or the caretaker or the family's quiet sacrifice. I was simply me, standing taller than I ever thought possible. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty: the era of protecting him at my expense was over. The morning of the hearing, I stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. Not to admire myself, but to remind myself of who I had become. For years, I had walked into family gatherings feeling small, apologetic, invisible. Today, I was walking into a courtroom with proof, with a voice, and with the weight of every scar I had carried finally working in my favor. I slipped on a simple navy suit, nothing flashy, just sharp enough to remind my brother that I wasn't his scared little sister anymore. The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper and disinfectant. My lawyer walked beside me, steady and calm, while my parents sat on the opposite bench with Victor. Their eyes darted between me and the floor, guilt mixing with defensiveness. My brother looked pale, worn down, but still tried flashing that grin he had used his whole life to talk his way out of consequences. This time, no one smiled back. When the judge entered and the hearing began, I expected nerves to crush me. Instead, a strange calm settled over me, like the weight of years had already lifted. My lawyer presented the evidence: bank statements, digital footprints, forged signatures, expert testimony. Every page felt like a brick in the wall I had built to separate myself from the lies. My brother's attorney tried to spin stories, painting me as vindictive, bitter, even unstable. But when the judge asked Victor directly about certain transactions, his words stumbled, collapsing under their own weight. By the end of the session, it was clear where this was heading. The judge didn't issue a final sentence that day. Investigations take time, but his warning was sharp restitution penalties and potential charges. My brother's smirk finally cracked. For the first time, he looked small. And for the first time, I didn't. Outside the courthouse, my parents rushed toward me. My mother's face was streaked with tears. "Clara, please," she begged. "He's still your brother. We can fix this as a family." My father's tone was harder. "Do you really want to destroy your own blood?" I looked at them, these two people who had chosen favorites for decades, who had fed the cycle until it swallowed me whole. My voice was steady. "You destroyed him by protecting him from consequences." "I'm not doing that anymore." Then I walked away. That night, I didn't celebrate with champagne or fancy dinners. I just sat on my balcony watching the city lights blink against the dark sky. Peace isn't loud, it's quiet. It's sitting with yourself and knowing you made the right choice, even if it cost you the family you wished you had. Weeks passed, and as expected, the family campaign shifted. Anna sent messages about healing and rebuilding trust. Daniel called twice, leaving voicemails filled with awkward apologies and thinly veiled requests for financial advice. My parents sent letters handwritten heavy with underlined words about forgiveness and unity. I read them once, then filed them away in a drawer I didn't plan to open again. The only message that truly cut through was from my niece. She wrote me a shaky little note in pencil saying she missed me and wished everything could go back to normal. That broke my heart. I wrote back telling her she could always reach out to me, that none of this was her fault, and that grown-ups sometimes made choices that hurt even when they thought they were protecting. I promised her I'd always be her safe place no matter what happened with the adults. That was the only bridge worth keeping. Meanwhile, my own life kept expanding. Work was demanding but fulfilling. I earned another promotion and was given a small team to lead something the younger version of me, the one taking the bus with secondhand books, wouldn't have believed possible. I moved into a larger apartment, decorated it slowly, piece by piece, choosing every detail myself. Each choice felt like reclaiming something I'd been denied freedom taste. Space that was truly mine. David, the man I'd been seeing, stood by me through it all. He didn't treat me like a bank account or a burden. He treated me like a partner. One night over takeout and laughter, he said, "You know the life you've built, it's yours. No one can take that away." And I realized he was right. Months later, the final outcome of my brother's case reached me: restitution payments, ordered accounts, frozen reputation, damaged beyond repair. I didn't feel joy at his downfall, only relief that I no longer had to carry the weight of his chaos. For once, the system had spoken where my family never would. On the anniversary of that last family dinner I ever attended, I lit a single candle in my apartment. Not out of sadness, but as a marker the night I stopped being invisible. I thought of the girl who once sat quietly at the table while her siblings mocked her, while her parents looked past her, while she swallowed her pain and called it strength. And then I thought of the woman I had become, driving home in silence with a future wide open in front of her. Do I miss them? People ask me that sometimes. The truth is complicated. I miss the idea of family, the version I wished I had. But I don't miss the reality, the constant diminishment, the favoritism, the empty holidays. You can't miss what never really existed. Now I have a new kind of family: friends who choose me, a partner who respects me, colleagues who value what I bring. And most importantly, I have myself finally unshackled from the desperate need for approval. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this: blood alone doesn't define family. Actions do. And once you stop chasing the love that isn't given freely, you make space for the love that is. So here I am, 30 years old, standing on my own, not as the forgotten daughter or the scapegoat, but as Clara, whole, independent, and free. And if anyone out there listening has ever been the invisible one at the table, the overlooked sibling, the forgotten child, hear me. Clearly, you are not what they made you feel like. You are what you build for yourself. That's the ending I never thought I'd get. But it's the one I claimed.